For the wing nut, we're going to be using tangencies, arcs that are tangent to lines and to circles. So what you're going to need to do is make sure that you're measuring very carefully. I set this up and taped my paper down so that my parallel bar, or my T-square, was lined up directly with the flat horizontal lines for the wing nut. Okay, so the next thing that you need to know is that these two center points are 2 1/4 inch apart. So from the center line, it's going to be half of that amount. So 1 1/8 this direction and 1 1/8 inch that direction. So what I'm going to do in order to get that, I'm going to use construction weight lines and extend my bottom horizontal line out and then make those measurements. Create a tiny little dot precisely on the line. Okay, and I will extend those two up. It's very important that we're using our 5H pencil, using construction weight lines nice and light so that they don't distract from the final object lines. If you draw your construction lines correctly, you'll never have to actually erase them or lighten them up because they will be so light to begin with that it actually works out perfectly. The next thing I need to do to find these center points is to measure 1 1/8 inch up on those vertical lines. Now I can see right here that I have my vertical line over just a wee bit. So I'm going to move that. There we go. And while it looked like it wasn't that much off, even just the slightest bit can cause some issues. So it's very important that you are precise in your measurements and your drawings. So that says 1 1/8 inch. So I'm going to come up here, make a tiny little mark at 1 1/8 inch, and do the same on this side. And I've identified the center points for these two circles. It says that the radius of the smaller part of the circle is 1/2 inch. Now we know from experience that we are never supposed to put our compass up against our scale. So that's where we get out the index card or just a piece of paper, and we're going to measure out the 1/2 inch. Okay, so I made a mark at the 0 and at the 1/2 inch point, and I'm also going to label the 1/2 inch just in case I need it again. Why keep going back and measuring if you already have done it once correctly the first time? So now I'm going to place my compass on the index card, and I'm going to give that a swipe. You can see that my line is just barely to the left of my dot, so I need to move my compass lead over and give that again. Okay, now I'm going directly over that dot, so I have my compass set to the measurement that I want. I'm going to place the sharp tip into the paper at that point that we just measured out, and I'm going to give it a light twirl. Okay, it's okay that I'm making circles at this point because I'm going to darken in the part that I want to keep later. So now I'm going to twirl again. Okay, so I have my two starting circles. So the next thing that I need to do is create this arc. Okay, we know at least one location that this arc exists, and the arc, according to this paper, is 1 1/2 inch radius. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to take our compass and we're going to set it to 1 1/2 inch. So I'm going to remeasure from that starting point that I made over here, which is 0. I'm going to measure 1 1/2 inch and make a tiny little dot. Okay, I'm going to set my compass for that dimension. I'll put that so my hand stops blocking your view, hopefully. Okay, make a little arc. I'm slightly to the right, so I need to close this just a wee bit. There we go, we're right on the money. And like I said, we know one location that that arc definitely touches. Okay, so it's at the ends of these lines. So I'm going to take my compass, I'm going to put it at the bottom of this line. I'm going to arc inward. I'm going to change the other point. I'm going to arc over there. Okay, so we need to find the center point of where we're going to put our compass in order to do that. But here is where things get a little bit different. When we created arcs on previous tutorials, the arcs were going in the opposite direction of our given curve. This one we're going to continue on in the same direction. In order to do that, what we're going to be doing is we're going to take this radius of 1.5 minus the radius of the smaller circle, which will equal 1 inch. This will make sense in just a minute. Okay, right now I'm just asking you to trust me. So I'm taking the larger radius of 1.5 minus the smaller radius of 1/2, that equals 1 inch. Okay, I'm going to set my compass to 1 inch. Okay, I arced it to make sure it fit. And now with this 1 inch measurement, I'm going to use that beginning center line. Okay, because I'm trying to find the center point for where I'm going to make these arcs, and I have two known locations. I have part of this circle and I have that endpoint. So figuring out where to put the endpoint of my compass lead to connect those is going to require a little bit of crazy math. Okay, now I made those dark. I'm going to have to go back and lighten those up with my construction lines. But these two intersections right here, this is where I'm going to set my compass for that 1.5 inch arc radius. So since I've already measured it out on my card, I can just open up my compass, set it to that measurement, and now when I place the center, I press the sharp end of my compass there, and my compass lead will arc. Sorry, I moved it. Okay, and just by how hard you press down or how many swipes you go over it, that will give you an object weight line. But now I have that arc that continues up to that line. I'm going to do it on the other side as well. Okay, so this one was a little bit different. It was a little bit difficult, but we got to finish our wing nut. These two are straight lines. Okay, we know that they connect from the corners and they hit the arc on its widest point, creating a tangency. Now this, guys and gals, is not the most technical skill here. Okay, you're gonna love this. I just kind of put my pencil on the tip of that intersection and I put a triangle or a straight edge next to it and I pivot until, oh, I moved, darn it. That's okay, I can clean that up. But I pivoted my triangle until I was only hitting one point on the circle. So that's creating a line tangent to the arc. And the final part that I'm going to go back to my compass. I'm going to reset my arc to 1/2 inch. And I am going to darken in that circle. Okay, so I've created all my tangencies, I've created my object lines. The last thing I need to do, get my handy dandy eraser shield, and I'm going to clean up these edges. It's very important with a precision drafting course that you only turn in nice clean lines and clean arcs. That's where I tend to use a lot of red ink circling things when you don't have clean endpoints and intersections. Okay, if I have very dark construction lines, I'll just kind of barely whisper over it with my pen, with my eraser. Don't fully erase those, because then you'll have, if you made a mistake, you can go back and see where it was, and then you'll be able to adjust quicker than if you have to redo the whole thing all over. Okay, so that is my tutorial for the wing nut. I'm going to come back in here later with my pencil and fix that up. But there you go.